First, we begin. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also, let us know where and when you're watching this. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. I should have trusted my gut. That saying, too good to be true, never left me. But back then I ignored it. My wife Romy and I had been desperate for a break. Work had chewed us both up. She's a teacher, I'm in sales. We needed out, even just for a week. When we found the listing, it felt like a dream. A cottage by the beach, palm trees leaning over the porch, ocean so close you could taste the salt on the air, and the price, ridiculously cheap. I remember staring at the photos thinking, this doesn't add up, but we booked it anyway. Looking back, the reviews were the first red flag. Guests said the owner was strict, like absurdly strict. Extra charges for the simplest things. A chair out of place, a couple $100, a dirty dish in the sink, same thing. People complained, but I brushed it off, thought they were exaggerating. Wish I hadn't. 2 nights before we left, the host messaged me. His name was Mr. Harland. He asked if he could call me. That was weird. No Airbnb host had ever needed my phone number. But I said yes. Didn't want to lose the booking at the last second. The call lasted almost 20 minutes. He started polite. Questions about our jobs, why we were visiting. But then his curiosity dug deeper. Our daily routines, where we usually shop, even what my wife did on weekends. It felt like small talk, but afterward, I couldn't shake how personal it had gotten. Then came the PDF, 27 pages of house rules, 27. He made me confirm I'd read it. He wanted Romy's full name, number, email address too, insisting it was for emergencies. We skimmed, signed off, and just tried to push past the uneasiness. The ferry ride to the island felt like a cleanse. Blue water, white sand, paradise. The house looked perfect on the outside. A white porch, stepped straight to the beach. But inside, it was dated, creaky, like a place decorated decades ago, held together by strict control and an old man's compulsions. Everything, and I mean everything, was labeled. Cabinets, fridge shelves, even the drawers. Stickers told you where to put spoons, where to store milk. It didn't feel welcoming. It felt like a setup. Like every move was being recorded for inspection. That's when the sound started. Clicks, faint hums. Nothing we could pin down. And though we saw no cameras on the walls, my eyes kept drifting to this slick modern thermostat. Brand new, glowing faintly on the wall in a house where even the TV still had rabbit ears. We laughed nervously about it, but at night, in the dark, I'd lie awake, pulse in my throat, certain there were eyes on us. On our 3rd night, a storm slammed the island. Power flickered out, came back after 5 minutes. Standard island stuff. But the second the Wi-Fi dropped, my phone buzzed. It was him. I see the thermostat disconnected. Please reconnect the Wi-Fi immediately. My stomach sank. How the hell did he know? Unless he was watching us in real time. That was the moment the fear sharpened. I grabbed a chair, climbed up to the smoke detector in the living room. That's when I saw it, the tiny black lens of a camera. My hands shook as I checked the others. Kitchen, hallway, and our bedroom, aimed at the bed. Romy covered her mouth, whispering through clenched teeth, "He's been watching us." I can't describe the sickness I felt in that moment. We taped them up, but it didn't matter. He'd already seen enough. The rest of the trip spiraled. A black SUV idled outside for 30 minutes. Vanished. Then returned the next night. Mr. Harland messaged me casually about the nice weather at the beach when we hadn't posted a thing online. My wife checked her phone settings. Location sharing was off. That's when it hit us. Maybe he was inside our network, tracking everything. When we started packing to leave early, I found something under the bed. Charges he gave me later. Notes scribbled in handwriting that wasn't mine. On our last night, notes about past guests. Cut again. When they unpacked. Darkness swallowed. When they argued. Then came scratching at the windows. Not wind. Too deliberate. A phone vibrated in my hands. A new message. Wi-Fi down again. Housekeeper checking in. And then headlights. That same SUV outside. Romy's voice in the dark, trembling. He's here. We locked ourselves in the bathroom, pressed against the cold tile, hardly breathing. The scratching stopped. The engine eventually rolled away. But the hours between then and dawn stretched like years. When the first ferry left that morning, we bolted. Bags half-zipped, sneakers wet from the grass. The review he left afterward was casual. Great guests, followed all rules, 5 stars. He wrote it like nothing had happened. Airbnb eventually pulled his listing. But I still wake up sweating, convinced that somewhere out there, Mr. Harland is logged into a camera, watching strangers who thought they booked a paradise. Because that's the thing no one tells you. Sometimes cheap escapes cost far more than money. It happened in Tacoma, on a Thursday night soaked by relentless rain. I was trudging home after closing, jacket drawn tight, umbrella barely keeping my head dry, phone battery clinging to life at 11%. The streets glimmered yellow under tired lamps, everything muffled but the hiss of water hitting plastic above me. At first, nothing felt off. I passed the laundromat with its stubborn light, then skirted the dim vape shop. But then I heard them, footsteps, heavy, steady, trailing me by half a block. I glanced back, throat tight, and saw a man, a shadow in a hoodie and jeans moving the same direction, never looking up. I told myself it was nothing. People walk. But then I crossed the faded crosswalk, and he did too. I knelt to fake tying my shoe near the old bakery, and he slowed again, matching me. My pulse hammered, faster with each step. The closest lights were a little convenience store a block away, so I hurried, the sound of his boots crushing wet pavement behind me. Inside, the bell jangled, and stale warmth rushed over me, thick with old coffee and sweet melting gum. The man at the counter nodded, and I bought water and gum, just to seem normal. Through foggy glass, the man outside paused under the awning. Never coming in, just staring through the door. I whispered to the clerk, "Someone's following me." He leaned to look, then calmly told me I could stay as long as I wanted. Hands shaking, I lingered, my phone battery draining to 7%. Outside, the man waited until a dirty white van, a battered cargo sort, dent above the rear wheel, no side windows, rolled up behind him. He glanced, climbed into the passenger seat, and the van idled before pulling away into the night. Relief didn't really come, just a sick feeling as I watched it go. After 5 tense minutes in the safety of fluorescent light, I decided to leave. I thanked the clerk, stepped into the rain, hugging the main road, keys bristling in my fist the way my mom taught me years ago. The world was silent, except for the occasional headlights flicking past and the baking scent wafting from the old bakery sign. Then I heard it again, an engine creeping slowly behind me. I turned. It was the same van, riding along at my pace, a figure barely visible in the windshield. I didn't think. I darted into the nearest alley, shoes splashing through garbage water, dustbins looming in the shadows, smells of old oil and wet refuse mixing with panic. The van stopped at the mouth, headlights slashing across stacked pallets and walls. I crouched behind a dumpster, heart rattling in my chest, trying to breathe small and slow. For a moment I heard the sliding side door screech. Then silence. Half a block away, impossibly close and miraculous, a police cruiser idled beneath a dim traffic light, its reflection bouncing on the slick street. That scrap of hope, I'll never forget it. I ran, bolting for the patrol car, waving wildly. "Help!" I yelled, voice breaking. A female officer stepped out, one hand raised, and asked, "What's going on?" I blurted out everything, pointing back to the alley. A white cargo van. A guy followed me. Bad vibe, just right there. She hustled me into the back seat, radioed something, then cruised forward. The alley was empty. My umbrella lay in a puddle, but the van was gone, evaporated like a nightmare. I described every detail. Old van, dirty paint, dent above the wheel, missing hubcap, no plate, shadow-faced driver in a hoodie. The officer nodded, gentle but firm. "You did the right thing," she said, then told me, "Next time, call 911 right away." She flipped the patrol lights and drove around, floodlights washing the silent streets, but we found nothing. That sick fear stayed with me even as she drove me home, rain streaking down the glass, the police radio crackling, her name on a card pressed into my palm. She watched the building until I made it safely inside. I locked my door twice and sank to the floor, clothes dripping, phone finally dead. Only then, feeling like the nightmare had passed. The next morning, I retraced my steps under clear daylight. The clerk at the store gave a nod, asked if I was okay, and mentioned seeing that same van around before. I bought pepper spray, shaken, and resolved never to walk late again. No one ever caught the van. To this day, rain brings back those footsteps, echoing the dread of a van in the shadows, a reminder that not all monsters leave proof. Sometimes it's just a dent above a wheel, a missing hubcap, and footsteps chasing your every move. I decided to sell my old IKEA desk last year, more out of boredom than necessity. It had been wedged in my bedroom for years, collecting scratches and memories, but I'd swapped it for a standing one and figured it was time to clear space. I snapped a few quick photos, listed it on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. Third floor walk-up, needs 2 people to carry, cash only. The first message came fast, just a first name, no profile image. He asked if the desk was still available, barely anything else. I said yes and reminded him about the stairs. All he sent was a thumbs up. I got uneasy and texted a friend that someone was coming, just in case. Dusk slid into evening and the guy pulled up. Silver sedan idling out front. Trunk popped open with a folded blanket. Ropes, bungee cords all laid out like a silent checklist. He stepped out. Baseball cap, hoodie, face blunt and unreadable. No words of greeting. Just, "Third floor?" I nodded, explaining about the wait, hoping he'd offer to help. Instead, he peered at the entrance, eyes trailing up the building. I stood my ground, watched him count windows. At last he shrugged, followed me inside without any offer of help. His sneakers dragged up every stair. On the second landing, he asked, "Anybody else live with you?" My heart skipped. I lied, said my roommate was at work, though I live alone. At my door, he paused on the threshold, scanned the apartment, the bolts, the ring camera lurking in the hallway. Only when I moved toward the desk did he finally cross in. He said, "Nice place, quiet building." We hefted the desk together, squeezing it through the doorframe and into the hall with awkward grunts. Halfway down, he went quiet, then said it. "I'm sure you heard about the woman who got raped and killed from Craigslist recently." His tone slid cold, almost gleeful. The desk pressed into my ribs. I tried to keep my voice steady. "No, I didn't." But he grinned. "People are crazy." In that moment, I wanted to drop everything, wanted him out, but blocking the path would leave me trapped. So I held my tongue and moved faster. Downstairs, the street was dark and empty, that silver sedan waiting with its trunk open, ropes dangling like threats. The cash he offered was old, faded, bundled thick with a rubber band. No haggling, no small talk. We shoved the desk inside, tied it down, lid thudding shut with ropes trailing off the bumper. He paused, stared up at my windows. "Do you ever worry about doing this?" he asked. "I'm careful," I replied, knuckles clenched white. He nodded, unsmiling. "Good. You should be." Then he drove off, that rope flicking in the dark. I locked the doors, both of them, double-checked the latches, texted my friend, replayed every word in my mind. His voice didn't leave me. I searched for Craigslist murders, nothing local, just distant stories, rumors, recycled tragedies. But it wasn't a warning. It was something he wanted to plant. I rewatched my Ring camera footage and saw him tilt his hat, maybe veiling his face. That clip I saved. Midnight came. My buzzer rang, a long, uneasy press. No voice, just silence through the peephole. Minutes later, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Again, the same first name, asking if the desk was still available. I blocked the number, buried the listing, reported everything. I slept with a chair braced under the doorknob, woke to every creak, every stray voice in the hall. For weeks, every silver sedan set my nerves on edge. Every man in a cap became a threat. I never posted my address again. I started meeting buyers in police station parking lots, bought a dolly so I'd never need help from a stranger. What unsettles me most isn't what happened, but what almost did. The rope, those words about hurting women, and the way he measured the space between us. Sometimes the creepiest monsters never break the rules. They just make you wonder what could have happened, leave you haunted by the memory in a sentence you can't forget. When I moved to Cleveland for grad school, I thought my biggest fears would be finals and endless debt, not ghosts in an office hallway. I rented a basement unit off Euclid Avenue. The smell always a mix of old carpet and printer toner, cold and steady in the mornings. The fall gave way quickly to winter, and by October I'd landed a part-time job in the department offices, a chaotic world of phones, donor lists, and recruiting. The chairman was Doc Katz, a sweater-wearing legend, with a pipe always clamped in his teeth, heavy metal ashtray banging at his side. He taught me everything, job tricks and Hebrew words, even let me monitor his blood pressure when his hands shook. I brought him soup on Mondays, and the scent filled his office with a brief warmth. By February, routine was gospel. Early shifts, ringing phones, fluorescent lights humming awake. I'd arrive just after sunrise, Doc trailing in mid-morning with folders stacked high, pipe barely cleared by that battered ashtray. A world banished from university policy but alive in that one-corner office. Then one night Doc called from home, his voice careful and flat. He couldn't urinate, a full day, and he was scared but wouldn't admit it. I called his son for him, then an ambulance. The medics took him away, said another day would have been too late. He ended up at a rehab place, clean, bright, the sort of place where time pools more than it passes. I visited often, dragging folders, watching him circle names and write tight notes in the margins. He missed the echoes of our building. Late February, they suspected a stroke. He died quietly at Cleveland Clinic. Just like that, the mentor gone, and the world in the office felt suddenly wrong. We boxed his things, labeled computers, left his metal ashtray out because nobody wanted to move it. That smell in the hallway faded until there was hardly any trace. Then, a week after his funeral, on a morning still wrapped in darkness, I came in alone. Night heat pressed against the windows, every sound magnified. I unlocked my desk, dropped my bag. The phone rang, a sharp break in the silence. I answered, no script or greeting, and got nothing but static, a low, even hiss. Then, a faint scrape, unmistakable, metal on metal, Doc clearing his pipe. I froze, every thought scattering. There was a long breath, a presence close but silent. Then the call clicked off. Internal caller ID. The extension number was Doc's, the same set of digits I'd memorized, the one printed in the supply closet. My hands shook as I walked the hallway to his office, the lights still off. Door locked, but my key fitting neatly. The ashtray sat in the center of his desk, 2 flecks of ash stubbornly holding on. The phone base was gone, boxed in storage across the hall. The line disconnected a week before. I tried to tell myself it was nothing, just nerves, but it lingered. Later that morning, campus police officer James O'Malley found me. Face pale, clipboard gripped hard. He asked if everything was all right, eyes locked on the empty corridor. He explained he'd seen Doc that morning, moving past the copy room into his office, careful and deliberate, sweater and pipe, door shutting softly behind him. The light never came on. He didn't knock, wasn't sure if he should. When he returned, the hallway was empty. He kept moving, made a note, but the chill lingered around that corner. I didn't say a word about the phone call. After he left, the smell of tobacco crept back, sweet, thin, settling on the carpet outside Doc's old door. I stood there too long, breathing it in, staring at a nameplate that would soon be swapped. Semester ended. Life moved forward. I finished grad school, took a job across town. But when I returned years later to give a talk, the 4th floor felt worn, a little cold, shadows longer in the corners. Doc's old office bore a new name. I printed my handouts in the copy room and spotted that classic box on the shelf. Blue tape, black marker, Doc's name written tight. I lifted the lid. The old handset was there, coiled cord tucked close, a yellow disconnect tag, month and year marked. From the hall, a single clean metallic tap echoed, the precise sound of his ashtray. Chill flashed up my spine. I checked, but the hall was empty. A faint, sweet whiff drifted on the air, something utterly out of place now. I stopped by telecom, asked about old internal calls, hoping for some plain answer. They told me Doc's line had been physically disconnected since March. No way a call could ring through. I thanked them, pressed the elevator button, watched the numbers climb and drop, nerves tight, logic fighting shadows. Whenever I pass the 7th floor now, some days it's just a hallway. Other days that smell or that metallic ring reminds me not all ghosts shimmer, some linger quietly among the ashes of routine. It was a crisp October day, bright and cloudless, the kind that tricks you into believing nothing bad can happen. My wife Sophia, our 6-year-old Tommy, and I headed out to Gretna's pumpkin patch, a Nebraska legend, acres of hay rides, trickling laughter, and a sprawling corn maze nearly 10 football fields wide. Tommy bounced in his seat, eyes wide, talking about getting lost in corn stalks like his cartoons. We laughed, promised not to split up. The maze towered when we got there, corn twisting overhead, walls built just for confusion. The crowds were thick, the air heavy with cider donuts and sharp autumn wind. At first, it was pure family fun. Pumpkin picking, feeding goats, hayrack rides. Then, Tommy wanted to play hide-and-seek in the maze. I scoffed. Sophia rolled her eyes, but his excitement won out. The game started easy. I found him fast the first few rounds, hiding behind corn walls, giggling like a ghost. But then he darted farther, voice echoing, "Can't catch me!" Sophia and I separated, calling his name at each turn. 10 minutes passed. No sign of him. Frustration bled into dread. The sun was strong at first, lighting every path, but as it sank, so did my hope. Families nearby hadn't seen a lone kid. Nothing, not even a flash of his red sneakers. By late afternoon, the maze announced closing, voices booming over speakers. We rushed to the exit, told a worker. He waved it off. Kids do this, he'll turn up. But it felt wrong. Sophia started crying. I ran for flashlights from the car. Night fell, sudden and suffocating. The maze swallowed sound, only the wind whispering, cornstalks bending in the dark. Our phones barely held a signal. We called 911 anyway. The dispatcher told us to wait. We didn't. We plunged deeper, light beams slicing a narrow tunnel. Finally, Sophia's scream froze me. She'd found Tommy's sneaker buried in a muddy patch, tiny footprints trailing away, swallowed by bigger boot prints. The air stilled. There was a sound, a low whistle, like someone beckoning a dog, then rustling, deliberate. "Who's there?" I shouted. No answer, only a silhouette shifting behind the corn. We pressed forward, pulse hammering in my ears. Trampled trash marked a lousy clearing, a sleeping bag, cans, cigarette butts. Someone had been living here, waiting for a moment just like this. My stomach twisted. A voice, gravelly, mocking, asked if we were looking for the boy. A drifter stepped out, wild-eyed, coat-ragged, shadowed face twisted in a smirk. "He's safe for now, but you've got to play my game." Later we learned his name was Earl, a criminal drifting across states, wanted for theft, worse. He'd used the maze, grabbing kids, camouflaging himself among the chaos. Sometimes he demanded ransom, sometimes he just vanished. Sophia screamed for Tommy, but Earl laughed, "Follow me if you can." He melted into the stalks, knowing paths we'd never find. We chased his voice, soft, mocking echoes. Over here. Followed by silence, the maze turning hostile, endless. Tommy's other shoe surfaced, torn, and my heart broke. Fear spilled in my head, stories of missing kids from farms, families shattered in the middle of nowhere. Then, a faint cry, real, not faked. "Daddy!" We smashed through dry cornstalks and stumbled into a clearing. Tommy was there, tied to a stake, gagged, eyes wild with terror. Earl lunged at me, rusty knife flaring. I tackled him, flashing back to farm work days. We tumbled, both covered in mud. Sophia found a rock, swung, smashed his hand. He howled, knife dropping. I pinned his arms, screaming for help. Lights arrived, deputies, flashlights, dogs barking. Earl was cuffed, Tommy untied, cold and frightened, but alive. Cops said Earl had been watching us all day, biding his time, ready to ransom Tommy for cash, then hide in a nearby silo. We drove home in silence. Tommy fell asleep in the back seat, innocence shaken but spared. Sophia and I barely talked. The pumpkin patch shut its maze for a week. Even now I wake sweating at night, hearing that whistle riding Nebraska's wind. Corn mazes. Never again. In December of 2007, everything changed for my family. My cousin Leah Hickman was young, just 21, and full of promise. She worked at a hair salon near Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. I remember her last night vividly. She was excited for the holidays, chatting about Christmas plans, her smile bright as ever. She finished her shift, headed back to her apartment on the third floor of a brick building that looked ordinary on the outside, but held a strange weight inside. That night, Leah was alone. She'd called friends earlier, but after that, silence. When she didn't show for work the next day, it hit us hard. Her coworkers called her phone. No answer. Her sister, too. Panic spread like wildfire. We went to her apartment together, hearts pounding with hope she'd simply gone out. But the door was locked tight. Her car still there. Purse and shoes inside, as if she'd stepped out for a moment. It was the most haunting thing I'd ever seen. Her life, frozen in place. No signs of forced entry, no struggle, just gone. Police swarmed the building, questioning neighbors, searching every corner, especially the dank basement with its dark storage rooms no one wanted to face. Days passed in an endless blur. Each night I lay awake, imagining where Leah was. Scared, alone, maybe begging for help no one could hear. 5 days later, the police returned to the basement. That's where they found her, hidden beneath the stairs in a narrow crawl space. It crushed us. So close, yet unreachable while we searched so desperately above. The investigation splattered across headlines but stalled, the killer still free. Rumors swirled, whispers of noises at night, shadowy figures stepping past neighbors' doors. but nothing solid ever emerged. The most terrifying part is how ordinary that night was. Leah had worked, come home, and maybe thought about Christmas as her life slipped away in silence. No alarms, no shouts, just a shadow that entered without warning. I still drive past that building sometimes, my stomach tight, the cold creeping inside. It looks normal. Students and workers in and out, unaware of the nightmare it holds. No one knows who took Leah or why. That unknown stalks us all. The horror lying in what nobody can explain. The worst fear born from an ordinary December evening that turned into a lifetime of unanswered questions. I'm Hug, a sergeant in the NYPD's Bronx precinct. I never thought my job would lead to a moment that still haunts me years later. It was October 2016, just before 6 p.m., when we got a call, neighbors reporting a woman acting erratically in an apartment building on Pugsley Avenue in Castle Hill. We'd had calls like this before, people in distress, nothing gruesome. That night felt different, though. The building was old, hallways narrow, door buzzers crackling faintly in the chill air. When we arrived, the woman was sitting on the floor, rocking back and forth, mumbling to herself, eyes wild but distant. At first it was routine. Tried to calm her, got her some water, waited for EMS. But the deeper we stayed, the more the air shifted. Her apartment had this oppressive weight. Cold spots chilled the back of my neck, and sometimes I swear I heard whispers thin as breath. One of the officers caught movement out of the corner of his eye, shadows that didn't match anything in the flat. Doors seemed to close on their own. At some point, the woman's voice changed, low, urgent, almost menacing, warning us about something that was in the building, watching. She begged us not to stay after dark. We brushed it off as paranoia at first. The clock ticked past 7, then 8. The building's old pipes groaned and knocked unexpectedly. Lights flickered. The power surged cold air along the hallways. The neighbors downstairs said the place had a history, strange disappearances and unexplained noises, stories old as the building itself. When we left that night, the woman's eyes followed me, and I knew the calm was just a thin veil. In the days after, I kept thinking about that cold apartment, the shifting shadows, and the feeling that something waited. Something that didn't want to be found, watching silently, ever patient in the dark corners of that building. Even now, when I walk past it, I feel eyes on me, and it reminds me some places hold their secrets tight, and some calls never end like they should. I was working as a police sergeant in the Bronx when we got the call in October 2016. Neighbors reporting a woman acting strange in her apartment building on Pugsley Avenue. The place was old, every step echoing down faded hallways, the kind of building that holds on to secrets like dust. When we arrived, the woman was in a rough state, sitting on the floor, rocking, eyes darting too fast, voice low and shaky. At first it was routine, trying to calm her, get her some help. But the atmosphere twisted quickly. The apartment felt icy cold in spots. Shadows seemed to flicker where no light reached. Doors creaked shut by themselves. Whispering voices teased the edges of hearing. The woman's murmurs turned urgent, warning of something lurking, something watching us from dark corners. We wanted to leave, but it was like stepping into a trap. The building didn't want us gone. The pipes groaned. Lighting flickered, and tension hung thick like fog. Neighbors shared stories, disappearances,